Hollywood. Think I'll go to Hollywood. People there treat you so good. I think I'll go to
Hey everybody. Welcome to the first episode of Anywhere But Hollywood, the podcast. My name's Adam Campbell, and today I am going to be interviewing Frank LaLoggia, director of the classic ghost movie Lady in White. And we actually had this conversation over a couple of days. He's in a little house in the Italian countryside, and the cell phone quality is a little choppy out there, so it took a while to put this together, but I think the information that he shares it probably makes up for any quirks in the sound quality. We cover a lot of ground in this interview, how he got Lady in White started. We go back to his years in high school when he was making short films. We get into his years as an actor in the 70s and the making of Fear No Evil. We get into his aborted passion project, The Giant, about Michelangelo's creation of the David. And finally, we get to his new project, which might be a little different from what you're expecting. So thanks for joining us today, and let's get to it. So, hi, Frank. Thank you for doing this. It's been a while since we've spoken. Let's start with the movie that you're currently most known for, Lady in White. Okay.
What an auspicious start!
I have the movie right in front of me, right here, the MGM copy.
Wow, that first question's a zinger.
Oh, isn't it? I know. No softball questions here. Huh? So, can you talk a little bit about, just how you made it, how you made it happen? I know that's a really big question, but obviously the first question is where'd you get the money for it?
Yeah, well, Lady was independently financed by virtue of a public stock offering. What that means is that we set up a public company and actually sold our stock on NASDAQ. Mm-hmm. And this was back in 1987. Mm-hmm. It was a penny stock company specifically set up to finance Lady in White. And the stock initially sold for 10 cents a share. And so it was trading over the counter on the NASDAQ, and we had a series of small brokerage firms that pitched the stock for us. And by virtue of this structure, we were able to raise $4.7 million to be exact, to make the picture independently, all in before any deals were struck. And at the time, I think it was, perhaps it remains, one of the highest budgeted, truly independent movies ever made.
Wow. So how exactly did the pitching go? Did I know very little about this, the brokerage world. Do they just put it out there and see who bites, or do they have specific people they target, or how does that work?
Well, it meant that we had to be approved by the SEC. It's a very complicated process. It's like any company that wants to go public. We had to basically put together a public offering and be approved by the SEC to offer our securities. I decided to shoot a 10-minute promo of Lady in White in 35 millimeter, and I took that promo and visited the various locales where these brokerage firms, the brokerage firms that we were targeting, were located, and set up screenings at their local theaters, invited them down, and pitched them personally after seeing the promo. And the promo was a great assist in getting them intrigued. And there was also the whole element of being able to get behind an independent film, feature film, that intrigued them as well. It was something that really hadn't been done up until that point. The idea of setting up a penny stock offering to finance an independent film. Lady had a budget of $4.7 million. And that's exactly what we raised. No deals were made up front. With distributors, no pre-sales were done. So the film was actually completed before I shopped any deals.
So do you think that this was done regionally in New York, right? Or into
No,
this?
I went to New York. I remember going to Arizona, Colorado, California. The brokerage firms are scattered across the country. The key brokerage firm was in upstate New York, but there were other firms involved as well.
Okay. Now, how many investors did you actually have? Was it a large number of investors contributing small amounts, or did you end up with fewer investors contributing larger amounts?
Yeah, well, I couldn't tell you exactly as to how many, but there were quite a few. I mean, what this means is you could have, when the stock was initially offered, it was offered at 10 cents a share. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the value of the stock rose and fell according to what was happening in the marketplace, and specifically as relates to the project. So people came in for at the initial offering stage, they came in for 10 cents a share, and the stock went as high as, I think, 30 cents a share. I mean, it was a penny stock, so it depended on when you came in. I think there were thousands of investors.
Wow.
involved.
So did they see a return on their investment?
It depended entirely on when they bought in and when they sold their stock. I mean, the stock issue worked just as any other stock issue works.
Interesting. So, do you think that something like that would work today?
Well, in today's market, no. It was an IPO. What we set up was an independent public offering, and considering what's happening at this moment, with the financial crisis, IPOs are pretty tough to pull off, especially smaller ones. But it was quite an extended and difficult affair. It really was. And this time, with the new project with Miro Miranda, I've created yet again, a promo reel, a 10-minute promo piece that I've shot here in Italy. And I'm going a more conventional route, although I'm not entirely disregarding the possibility of privately financing the film in part. Mm-hmm. So there is a business plan for private investors, and then and I'm also presenting the film to distributors and production companies.
I see. And back to Lady for the moment. How long did the actual shoot take?
All right, we shot. I think about that. We shot, believe it or not, on a budget of $4.7 million, and it was all extremely well put together by Andy LaMarca, who was my co-producer on the film. Sadly, recently passed away. He's a great fellow, a great friend, and he put together a remarkable schedule for me. And we shot for 10 weeks on that budget. We shot half the film was shot in upstate New York on location, and then the rest of it we shot that portion first, and then we all flew back to Los Angeles, and we took over 2 stages at the Raleigh Studios in Los Angeles, where we built just about all of the interiors. We built the woods. We built the wood set, as a matter of fact, took up an entire stage. That was something I was insistent upon doing because I wanted to have control of the lighting to the extent that the picture had a very, very specific idea in mind as to what it needed to look like visually from a lighting perspective. Russ Carpenter and I spent hours and hours and hours discussing this, watching other films that as reference. And
Russ Carpenter, of course, being the
Russ Carpenter was the director of photography on this,
and who won the Academy Award for Titanic, right?
Right,
he won, didn't he? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Matter of fact, I was told by him that because prior to Titanic, he shot True Lies for Cameron, mm-hmm. and it was kind of a surprise to him to be called in. And when he went in and asked Cameron why, he asked him to come in, and Cameron said, "Lady in White," of course. So,
oh, that's nice to know, isn't it?
That's what Ross told me, anyway.
That's great. That's great. Now, let me ask you, how much do you think that this film would cost if you were doing it today?
Oh, I think it would. I think it would cost 3 times the amount, which isn't that much. But I mean, I say 3 times the amount we spent. I'm talking if we were to attempt to shoot the exact same film with a cast, that isn't A-list, mm-hmm. And with effects that might be computer generated, maybe even a little bit more with on that kind of money, even 3 times that amount for a 10-week shoot would be difficult. Maybe even a little bit more.
Would you do it the same way with the on location and in studio? Do you think?
I don't know. I'd have to rethink the whole thing.
Remake the movie. So, talking about the actors, how did you get these actors?
Well, right from the word go, once the script was developed and we were in the process of putting together the financial structure, raising the money, and we were well on our way to getting the money together, I called Lynn Stallmaster, who was at the time the most renowned casting director in Hollywood. As a matter of fact, I think Lynn was really the granddaddy of all casting directors. I had worked for Lynn. He had cast me as an actor in a number of television pilots many years prior, and I asked him if he would come on board, and he loved the project. And so Lynn was very influential in getting the script into the actors' hands.
How did you go about getting the distribution for it once it was finished?
Once the picture was completed, I decided to set up a screening, which was actually a combined cast and crew screening at the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences Theater on Wilshire Boulevard. But I decided that I wanted to invite all of the distributors to the cast and crew, and I pissed a lot of them off because a number of them have been after me throughout the course of post-production to send them some work print footage. A lot of them were wooing me, and I didn't want anybody to see it till it was done. And then I was insistent upon their seeing it in a situation with an audience. So they grudgingly, a good number of them, not all of them, grudgingly came. We had a packed house that night. It was close to 700 people. It's a big theater, and that really launched the distribution, getting a deal process. And so there were a number of distributors there that came back, and a number of them wanted me to, and we had to afterwards ship the print to their various concerns for higher ups to see it. And so began a year of screenings for distributors and trying to finagle the right deal, work something between myself and them that wouldn't see the picture ultimately re-edited by them and would allow us to make our money back and make some money. And it was a grueling year, a very grueling year.
It sounds like it must have been a significant expense to strike multiple prints of the film too.
No. In this case, I was in Los Angeles, and I think we had two or three prints, 35 prints, maybe only two, and we just moved them around,
So, what's the status of of A Lady in White Blu-ray at this point?
Well, I control the rights to the picture, all future deals on the picture. So I'm just wrapping up a 10-year arrangement that I made with MGM, where they've been handling the picture internationally, booking it on cable and television throughout the world. And they also were responsible for the last DVD release of the picture, which was not Blu-ray.
Now, I understand you did master it in HD definition, right? 10 years ago for the DVD release. So it exists out there, the HD master.
And as concerns a Blu-ray release for the film, there's an HD master that was created by MGM. So once I structure a new deal, I'm not sure who that's going to be with yet. Sometime next year, okay. I'm sure that the Blu-ray will be part of that deal. Blu-ray release will be part of that deal.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping for it this year, but I guess that's not going to happen.
You're just going to have to wait a little longer.
Okay, one more year of watching it on DVD. So I want to get more into your current project, but before we do that, I want to go back a lot more, and talk a little about how you actually got started.
So making short films when I was a kid, starting with 8mm and graduating to 16mm. I made 3 of them. And the 8mm film was made to avoid writing a term paper, an essay, actually, for English class when I was 16. I was just being a wise guy. I walked up to the teacher and I said, look, I'm sick of writing papers. I said, how about if I make a movie? And she said, okay, go ahead and make a movie. So Buddy Scott and I got together. He was a cameraman, and I wrote the script, and we shot The Clown in the Light. It was about 9 minutes long. And it was a story about a clown in a spot of light that he discovers in a black limbo. And when he tries to move in and make the light his home, it basically destroys him.
This was a live action movie,
Yeah, it was a live action movie with effects. Things were popping up and disappearing throughout. We'd simply stop rolling, and I'd freeze.
It's the old Georges Méliès effect, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what happened was when it was completed and she saw it, she absolutely loved it and raced around the school and let all of the other teachers and the principal know what I'd done. And so it was great because I got out of classes for an entire day, and they set me up with a projector in the auditorium, and I got to run the movie for the whole school. They kept bringing all the
cool. Now, do these films still exist, Frank? Are they?
Yeah.
Do you have them in a video format?
Yeah, I have years ago with that little 8mm. I remember in Los Angeles putting it on an 8mm projector and videotaping it. I think it was the first video camera I bought when they were first home market camera. And then the other two that followed, Willow Point and Gabriel, were 16mm films. Willow Point was 15 minutes long, black and white. It had sync track and no dialogue, music and effects. And then Gabriel was the epic. I was 19 when I made that, and that was the first time I had to raise funds to make a project happen. In that case, set up a corporation, and I hit everybody I knew and raised $10,000 to make Gabriel. And those films went out and they made. They went out to film festivals, won a bunch of awards, and then Willow Point and Gabriel were actually picked up by a non-theatrical distributor that I think still exists called Phoenix Films.
Now, Willow Point, is there any connection there besides the name with Lady in White?
Well, Willow Point and Gabriel, Willow Point was town, Frankie's Town. I called Frankie's Town Willow Point Falls. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was kind of just an insider throw. And Gabriel, the courthouse or the county in which the Scarlattis resided was Gabriel County. I referred to the courthouse as Gabriel, the Gabriel County Courthouse. At some point, I think there's a reference to it in the visual or otherwise. No, but that's how the filmmaking efforts began in that manner. After arriving in LA at 21 years old, I had the short films under my arm, in particular Gabriel, which was the last one I shot. The first 3 years I worked as an actor in television pilots, and I hooked up with Lynn Stallmaster, and I had met him on a chance visit that I made to a friend of mine who lived in Toronto, Canada. I grew up in Rochester, New York, and actually this friend was an actor in Gabriel, a young actor. He invited me up, but he was working professionally, even at 18. I think we were both 18 at the time in Canada, and he had a call, an acting call, an audition for a film that Lynn was casting called The Last Detail, which was a Hal Ashby film. And it ultimately, Jack Nicholson was attached to the picture at the time, and they were looking for the 18-year-old lead opposite Nicholson. So my buddy had a call, and I went with him. And it was the first time I knew who Lynn Stallmaster was. When he told me he was auditioning for Lynn Stallmaster, I was gaga. And I said, well, God, can I go with you just to see how it all works? And I did. So I went with him, and he went in to read. And while he was in reading, we were both the same age, I asked the the secretary up front if I could take a look at the sides as well. And she handed them to me, and I asked her if I could read. And she went in, spoke to Lynn, and he said, sure, bring him in. Lynn was like that. That's why he was so great. He just opened his arms to the possibility of anybody, coming in and reading for him. So I went in and I read it, and when I finished, he said, wow, that was really terrific, and tell me more about yourself. And I said, well, I've got this short film under my arm, and I want to make movies. And I said, I'm finishing it up. It's not done yet. I said, but I'm going to be in LA in a couple of years, and that's my plan, to come to Los Angeles. And he said, listen, he said, that was an excellent reading. And he said, I'm going to New York next week, and I'm going to be in touch with Hal Ashby. And he said, if we fly you to New York to read for Ashby, would you be able to come? We'll pay for everything.
You're going to say no?
Work. I certainly knew who Hal Ashby was as well. And he said, okay, I'm going to call you next week. I've forgotten when he said he was going to call. He said, and he said, I'll let you know. He said, the only thing is that your physical type, you're a little too similar to Jack. He said, and Hal wants somebody who's a contrast to Jack. He said, let me see what I can do. So he did call me. And he said, Frank, he said, it was just as I told you, Hal, because he took a couple of pictures of me as well. I didn't have a photo or a resume or anything like that. And he said, Hal said, no, he's not right. Uh-huh. But Lynn said, but when you come out to Los Angeles, I want you to promise me that you get in touch with me. So 2 years later, I went to Los Angeles, and I knew no one else. So I called him, and he took the call, and he said, you're here? And I said, yeah. And I said, I told you I'd be here. And he said, well, I said, well, I've got this short film that I made, and I'm in it as well. I the lead role in it. And I said, I'd love for you to see it. And he said, okay, how do I see it? And I said, well, I have a 16 millimeter print and a projector. He said, okay. So he set it up, went down to his office, and I remember his drawing the blinds, and we screened the film in his office on the wall, and he loved it. And then he turned to me and said, you did a great job. And he said, listen, can you do a Puerto Rican accent? And I said, sure. Yeah, I've never done a Puerto Rican accent. But look, he said, I'm trying to cast a lead role in this television pilot for CBS and Warner Brothers. Mm-hmm. He said, here's the script. He said, why don't you go back, study it, come back and read for me next week. And I said, okay. So I took the script with me, and I went to a couple of Latino bars in LA, but that's as close as one gets to a Puerto Rican accent in Los Angeles. In LA, right. Portable cassette recorder. They were fairly rough bars, hidden under my coat, and I'd kind of nudge up to conversations to record to get a handle on the accent. But I escaped with my life, studied the tapes, went back, read for him. He loved the reading, and he took me to Warner Brothers, to CBS, to Duke Vincent's office, who was the producer of the pilot. And I got it.
All right.
Make a long story short. And then for
what was the show?
It was a show called Salt and Pepe, and I was
Salt
Pepe.
And Pepe. And this was a pilot?
Yeah, it was a comedy. It was a half-hour comedy. It was about a Puerto Rican kid who marries into a black family. And then I did 2 other pilots as well. One followed each year. The following year, I did a sitcom takeoff of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with Victoria Principal, Ed Begley Jr., Chava Farrell, Maury Amsterdam. It was a kick.
So you got to fill out your IMDb profile. This stuff isn't on there, I don't think.
And then the third one and last one I did was the following year was the very first attempt at an American version of Fawlty Towers.
You mean an actual American remake of Fawlty Towers, or is it just like a rip-off of it?
No, it was an attempt. It was ABC was involved. The first pilot was CBS. The other 2 I did were for ABC, and this one it was called Snavely. And and it starred Harvey Korman in the John Cleese role and Betty White as his wife and me.
Oh my God, I did not know. I mean, I've seen every Faulty Tower a million times. I never knew this.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, Corman recently, 2 years ago, got in touch with me, backed me down, and just wanted to reminisce. But it was just after his father died, as a matter of fact. I don't recall having met him. Perhaps I'd met him on the set. Well, he said that he had met me on the set, but I didn't recall. But he kind of wanted to reminisce and about it, and then he asked me the real reason. I think was he wanted to try and track down a copy, and I had a copy. Huh. So I made him a DVD and sent it to him, and he was thrilled. He hadn't seen it.
How was it? Was the show okay?
I thought the show was pretty good, but ABC didn't buy it. None of them got picked up.
Yeah.
And so when after that was 1978. That point in time, we were attempting to get Fear No Evil up. And
actually, Frank, let me pause for a second here. What role were you in that?
I was Petro.
You were the butler guy. The
bellboy.
Yeah, the bellboy. Wow.
His character name in Faulty Towers was
Manuel.
Manuel.
Right.
I was the character. Ah. So anyway, after that, Charlie and I, my cousin and I, managed to get Fear No Evil up. We shot Fear No Evil in 1979. And should I get into the Fear No Evil story? I guess I need to get into that, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Fear No Evil, we shot the picture in 1979. We raised about $450,000, which wasn't enough to complete the picture.
Was not enough.
But we got all the way through production, and then I moved to New York City.
Now, backing up just a second, this is like what, a year after Halloween, right? So I mean, there was a bit of a gold rush for horror films at that time, right?
That's why Charlie was really adamant about making a horror picture,
right,
and trying to capitalize on that. On Halloween and Night of the Living Dead.
Sure.
And so I scripted Fear No Evil, and we raised the money together to make the film. So we shot the film in 1979. Then I went to New York to edit the film with Edna Paul. I chose Edna Paul as my editor, and that's where I met Joel and Ethan Cohen, because Joel was my assistant editor on Fear No Evil.
Oh, wow.
And we cut the picture in New York. We got it through work print. The cut was in place, and Charlie refused to raise additional money to finish it without my agreeing to screening it for at least one distributor, and he wanted to screen it for Avco Embassy. They were the premier outfit at the time for smaller independent horror films.
You mean screening the work in progress?
Yeah, and I fought him on it. I didn't want to do it. I wanted him to raise the money to finish it, but ultimately I had to say okay. He stubbornly refused to do so, and then they liked it, and he made a deal with them, and they provided the finishing funds, and totally recut the movie, and made a disaster of it.
And do the original elements still exist out there at all? Is there any possibility of doing a director's cut of it?
No, as a matter of fact, I heard many years ago that when they went under, someone discovered that they had tossed all of their original negative into garbage bins outside the complex. Somebody went over and rescued some reels that were there, but they tossed everything. They kept tape masters, and because they were going out of business, they didn't want to continue to pay storage costs.
Oh, I
see. They just threw all the original negative away. The conformed negative and everything in negative form they threw away.
And so everything that Avco, we're talking about Avco Embassy here, right?
Yeah.
Everything that they owned that is just basically doesn't exist anymore if they were the original.
It exists in tape masters.
In tape, right? Wow.
Yeah. None of the negative exists on those pictures. The Howling, The Thing, Fear No Evil,
Oh my gosh!
All of those films, the negative was they just threw everything away.
The Fog, I think, wasn't that one of them too?
Yeah, the Fog.
The
Fog. He was making the Fog when I was in post production of Fear No Evil.
Wow. Jeez.
And after Fear No Evil, which was totally depressing because we didn't make any money because my cousin made a deal that precluded us from ever seeing a dime. A number of years passed between Fear No Evil and Lady, and then we decided to go public with the penny stock offering to raise the capital and make Lady in White. And this time, I insisted that we raise all of the money so we could absolutely complete the film from beginning to end. And we refused.
That's why you were so determined to hold the distributors off until the film was completed.
Right. And nobody saw it until it was done.
Right. So then how did this lead to, after Lady, how did this lead to Mother? And what was the aftermath of that?
Mother was, at least, when did we shoot Mother? Mother was, I think, 1996, so that it was quite a number of years after Lady. Lady was released in 88. And Mother was Steve Friedman, who is the head of a company called Kings Road and a producer as well. They come to me with the script, and I turned it down any number of times, but they kept coming back. And then finally I said, look, I said, if you send the writer out, we get to work on this together, and here's why I want to go with this. And I mapped it all out. And they agreed, and the writer came out. I believe that Steve was living in Philadelphia, in Boston at the time. And he came out and we worked together, and then we got the picture into pre-production, and I'd already hired the set designer, art director, a good portion of the crew, and Diane Ladd was attached to the project. And then he shut the show down in pre-production because he didn't have the money to make the picture. But Diane and I had contracts, pay-or-play contracts. Diane's were significantly more than mine was. So we sued him, and we won. The court froze his bank account to the tune of $600,000.
Wow!
And so he had to make the picture, otherwise he was going to be able to touch the money he needed to pay us, either pay or play. So he got his act together, and a year later we got the picture back up again. So. And we got the picture in 31 days. But the problem with that film was that I had no ability to control the final outcome. I was director for hire solely, and so the final cut was his, and he took the picture away before I could complete the cut, even though I was given 6 weeks contractually to edit the film. He came in at about 5 weeks and ran with it, this guy. And he was he's dead now. So, right. But believe me, he was just a very, very difficult, very, very sad man. Wow. Really.
Yeah. So actually, and I mean, we should probably skip ahead to your new project, but one last little factoid I wanted to get into is that you were involved in the early drafts of the Spider-Man scripts, right?
Yeah, that happened shortly after Lady, I think. Maybe 2 or 3 years after Lady. I was involved with Spider-Man when Canon Films had the rights. Golan Globus, I don't even know.
Sure, I remember Golan Globus.
Knock him going.
Yeah.
And so I was hired to direct the film. I already had 2 or 3 other people on it who had come and gone. And I was hired to write a treatment. They had a screenplay they didn't like, and so I started all over again. And I wrote a 50 or 60 page treatment, and I was attached to direct the film. And the treatment was finished. I remember going to their offices. It was on a holiday. I think it was Easter Sunday. And he insisted that I come. I took my assistant with me. I thought, this is crazy. You know, we're going to discuss this. He wanted to have a big meeting, and he had all his people there. And I, once again, with him, I'd mapped everything out prior. I said, I'll only get involved with this if you agree as to my approach. And so I created an outline before I made the deal with him. And he said, oh, no, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I love it. I love it. And we got to the meeting, and he proceeded to just completely change it. We wanted everything changed. I remember at one point he said, I think Peter Parker should have a dog. No, it wasn't his assistant. His assistant who said, I think Peter Parker should have a dog. So we both looked at each other aghast. And Menachem Golan, the company, when he said, a dog? Bulging out his head. And I thought, oh, God, this guy's got sense. I mean, he knows what this character is about. He doesn't. There's no dog. And then he continued. He said, a dog? You know how much would cost to put dog? He said, $1 million. $1 million to put dog in movie. No dog. I got him there. And the next day, the next working day, my agent called him and said, tell him I'm no longer involved. That's it. It's over. They paid me and I walked away.
Oh my god! That reminds me of one time I was brought in to pitch for a potential TV series based on Pinocchio, but they didn't have the budget to actually do it. That he ever turns to wood in the story. So my job was to come up with a series about Pinocchio, about a boy who never actually is wood. So I mean, they couldn't afford the wood.
These stories are priceless. If you don't laugh, I mean, you have to laugh.
Cry.
It's so absurd. But they're true. People don't believe this stuff, but it's absolutely true.
God. Oh yeah, I got so many.
When I grew up with Mother Friedman, I remember going to his office, signing the deal, and he said, "Let's go to lunch." And he walked me out, and their offices were at the Century City, where the Century City Towers.
You know what's so funny? Maybe there's something in the water there, Frank, but that's exactly where the office was for the Pinocchio pitch.
Really?
Yeah.
So we're walking to lunch. He had Richard Marquand. Remember Richard?
Yeah, sure.
Richard
Return of the Jedi and Eye of the Needle.
Right. Well, Friedman had produced Eye of the Needle. Mm-hmm. And Marquand had directed it, and Marquand had recently passed away, mm-hmm. And I knew this, and he knew this, of course. And so we're walking to lunch, and he says, "Well, this smirk on his face. Well, he says, how do you like that? We're going to be working together." And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Wait till I get you into the editing room. That's when I'll cut your balls off." And I turned to him and I said, "Well, I've been known to grow them back." And that's the way the relationship began.
Oh, okay. Well, let's flash forward to today. Well, actually, you know what though? There is one little project that I know you're very passionate about that we're skipping over here, and that's Giant.
The Giant. I spent so many years and gave it my all. Who knows? Maybe one day it will happen. But much of the inspiration for writing The Giant had to do with my first trip to Italy in 1986. I came here with my older brother. We spent, I think, 9 days. We went to Florence, Rome, and Venice. And when I came to Florence and saw the David for the first time, I had an epiphany of sorts. It was like a thunderbolt. I passed out.
You literally passed out.
Yeah, I fell over.
Wow.
So, and I was feeling fine prior, and I came back. And I came to.
Wow.
But but I couldn't. I thought, well, I need to pursue this, and so I spent many months back to LA. I got my hands on everything I could get my hands on as to the master, as to that period in history. Even got in touch with living scholars that had written books about him, and wrote the Jaya. So that's. Do you think
that would be an expensive movie to shoot?
Well, back then, I remember we were trying to get it up and running, and it was considered way too expensive. Yeah. For between 15 and 18 million. Can you imagine? Mm-hmm. And everybody kept telling me, no, that's great. That's too much money. That's too much money to spend.
And of course, now you could do all those wide shots of old Florence, with CG.
Yeah, today much of it could be accomplished in that regard with CGI. Today, I think you'd minimally spend. Well, I don't know, if I were to attempt to make it today and do it properly, probably with the kind of cast could make it work well, probably at least 60, 70 million.
Yeah, I remember you were thinking Joseph Fiennes shortly after Shakespeare in Love came out.
There were any number of people.
Yeah.
I actually had a meeting with Sean Penn that lasted practically the entire afternoon at my office on Melrose, with an eye toward his playing Michelangelo. He came to the script. His uncle Leo Penn had read the script. My agent had gotten it to him, and because I was interested in speaking to Sean Penn about the possibility of his playing Michelangelo. Interestingly, I thought also there was an amazing physical resemblance based on busts and portraits that were done at during that era of the master, portraits. And so, in any case, he came in after reading the script. We spent an entire afternoon together, and I shared some of the music that I was working on at that time. I had a studio at the office on Melrose, and I was working with synths. Mm-hmm. So I put together some musical ideas for the film, and at the end of the meetings, it all went very well. And I thought, God, this is wonderful. Maybe with him attached, I can move forward. And at the end of the meeting, he said, something, Frank? He said, the project's wonderful. He said, but I just don't want to act anymore.
Sean Penn said this?
Yeah. He said, I don't want to act anymore. I want to direct. He had just finished We're No Angels, and he told me about what a horrible experience it was. He was not impressed with the director. He was not impressed with, and he just didn't want to act anymore. He said, I want to direct. And he said, thank you. He said, good luck. And sure enough, that was about 1990, I think.
The Crossing Guard, did he do? With Jack Nicholson?
He did The Crossing Guard and Indian Runner.
Right,
so,
right.
As you'll recall, he was vacant from the acting scene for quite a while.
So you're in Florence, Italy now, right? Have you been involved in? Is there a film industry there? And I mean, have you been able to interact with other people who are involved in films professionally there?
My re-entry into the film industry is really has been Miro Miranda, this new project. Prior to getting involved with the new film, when I came here, I thought that was it. I really didn't have any plans for getting back behind the camera again. But I began composing again a couple of years ago. I set up a small virtual studio at the house. I began to acquaint myself with all that was possible from the point of view of composing with virtual instruments. In the past, when I scored Lady in White, I scored with synthesizers and interlocked reel-to-reel tape recorders to picture when I actually scored the picture. And then I handed those arrangements over to my orchestrator, John Massari, and he fully orchestrated my compositions that I had composed to picture, all on synth. He orchestrated them for full acoustic. But when I began to realize that these virtual instruments that had been created and programs that were available on via computer like like Cubase, and I decided that I needed to get into this. So I built a virtual studio and got my hands on a local person who was brilliant, who taught me the ropes as to all of the technical, and setting it up and learning how to use Cubase and the various virtual instruments. I bought a ton of them. And I spent a year creating an album called Frankie Goes Tuscany. And just as a kind of a test vehicle, see what I could do with all this. And I put the album up on the internet. It's available on the internet. One of the songs on the album is Miro, Miranda. Originally, the lyric was composed in Italian. And anyway, I couldn't get out of my mind the idea that this particular song had a lot of meat going on as to the possibility for a story.
Okay. So what can you tell us about it?
Well, it's a pretty far cry. Lady in White, I can tell you that. Mm-hmm. It's a musical comedy. It's the story of an Italian man who's a rather mature Italian man in his late 40s who lives with his very traditional Italian mama in a small village in Italy. It takes place in the early 80s, who dreams of becoming a woman inspired by his idol Carmen Miranda, and does. And that's the title Miro / that's his name, Miro / Miranda, !
Now, I have seen, of course, your test scene, which is just bursting with energy and joy and life, and and I've read your treatment, of course, too, and it has the same quality to it. And you're right, it is a far cry from Lady in White, but on the other hand, it's kind of not, because I think Lady in White has the same sort of sweet. I don't even know how to put it exactly, but there's almost a nostalgic quality. Well, of course, I can't pronounce it the way you do, but Miro, Miranda. And of course, I have to wave my hands while I'm saying that.
I've been thinking about that because the title is perfect. Conceptually speaking, it works. But I think that many people, I don't know why it is, in the English-speaking world, you have to kind of roll the R.
Yeah, Miro, Miro, Miranda.
Miro, Miranda. It's very difficult. So the alternate title I'm thinking of is The Total Miranda, much simpler.
Oh, that's good.
What do you think of that?
That's good, and that's certainly easier to say.
The Total Miranda! !
Yeah, I can absolutely see that on a poster with the exclamation point, with kind of a handwritten font. Total
Miranda. And so Miro Miranda, the film, was born of Frankie Goes to Tuscany and Miro Miranda, the song on the album. And so when that happened, I decided that I'd like to try to duplicate what I did with Lady in White, and that was create a 10-minute promo preview for Miro Miranda and shoot it. And once again, it was an opportunity to reintroduce myself to the technology that come along, like all digital cinema, and which I knew nothing about. And so I wrote the promo, which is now complete, and we shot it. We shot it here in Italy at an enormous cost. I raised a significant amount of money.
How did you raise the money, and how much was it?
I sold the percentage of my future take in the prospect of the feature version. That's what I did. So it cost a lot.
Okay, we'll leave it at that.
I mean, I raised 35,000 euros, which is the equivalent, based on the exchange rate, from investors, about $50,000. Yeah. But it cost a hell of a lot more than that, and I invested everything I had left in getting the promo made, and so we completed the promo, and
so you used a red camera?
Yeah, we shot with the red. Mm-hmm. We shot with the red, and it was great experience. It was fabulous. We shot for 13 days, professional dancers, beautiful medieval village, close to where I live. And then we built all of the interiors in an old villa that was empty because they were in the process of beginning a restoration. And the owner was gracious enough to allow us to use it. So we built all of the interiors in the villa in the Florentine Hills. And I finally got to work with an Italian crew, and that was an experience.
Yeah. Was your Italian good enough?
It was good enough. We shot it here. We wrapped it last September, September of 2000, actually beginning of October 2011. And it took me about, and I had Metafix, terrific effects house in Rome. They were involved in the project. They did all of the visual effects. There were about 70 effect shots in a little 10-minute promo. It took about 4 to 6 months to complete the effects because they came on board also as participants. They believed in the project, and so whenever they had time to get the effects work going between paying assignments, they worked in that manner.
What were the biggest expenses for the film?
Crew, putting up crew, hotels. We had dancers, professional dancers that came in from Milan, from Rome, from the south of Italy. 13 days with a good sized crew, equipment.
So you don't do things in a small way, do you?
No, well, in this particular case, it really had to look good and look big. Otherwise, it was the whole idea is to use this as opposed to a screenplay, at least initially,
right,
to interest the powers that be to back the feature version. And so once the promo was finished, what I created was a 60-page treatment with 7 additional songs that are embedded into the treatment, and that's what I'm shopping around now.
Oh.
And I hope so. Find a way to get it all up and running, the feature version.
Well, as I told you, I saw it and I loved it, and it was just so vibrant and full of joy and life. I think it's going to be a great project.
Let's hope I have a little bit of luck, and I can survive long enough.
Well, I'm knocking on wood right now.
Yeah.
You can hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Frank, wow, thank you so much. This has been a very, very informative and in-depth interview. I appreciate that. Now, is there any chance that we can get a copy of at least one of the old films, like Gabriel, or even a clip from one of the shows?
Well, I have them all. How much are you willing to pay? No, just
that's very funny.
No. Let me think
just
about
at least
that.
for my own curiosity. I mean, I'd love to see the earliest films that you've made, the shorts, and B, I'd love to see you as an actor when you were like 21 years old.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Sure. Let's talk about that.
For your own purposes, you should probably digitize these to have them archived.
No, they're digitized. I have them on the computer.
Oh, okay.
That's not a problem. I've thought about the possibility of uploading them privately just to share them with guys like you.
Well, maybe we can find something that you feel okay about sharing.
So we can talk about that. We can talk. Maybe I'll upload something for you.
Now you're probably not ready yet to publicly share the promo. Is that right?
No, as a matter of fact, the promo. Like to refer anyone who's interested to the website, which is miromiranda.com, miromiranda.com. At the website, there's a bunch of information, and there's a 30-second trailer of the 10-minute promo.
Okay.
Currently, what I'm doing is keeping the promo a bit exclusive. Mm-hmm. It's available privately via a password link, but anybody who wants to get in touch with me via the website who's interested in seeing the promo is welcome to do so, and I'll provide them with the link.
Excellent. Great. That's just the information we needed. Perfect. All right. So, Frank, thank you so much, and best of luck, and please keep us informed on the progress of this project.
I want to mention that the way Adam and I got to know each other was through a screenplay that he had written called Wind and Shadows, which is a beautiful, beautiful piece. And we attempted to get that project up and running with me attached directorially. But this guy's a hell of a writer. And
thank you for that. We've all got stories of projects that never quite die and never quite live.
Make sure you include that piece in this interview, okay?
Okay. All right. Thanks so much, Frank.
Okay.
And that's it, folks. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. I found that I've known Frank for years, since the late 90s, and there's a lot of stuff there I did not know about him. If you go to the site, anywherebuthollywood.com, you'll see, if you look at the show notes, you'll see show notes. You will see links to Frank's album, Frankie Goes to Tuscany. And I'll see if I can finagle some of these old videos of his and put on the site. Join us next time. I don't know what we'll be doing next, but it is bound to be awesome. Signing off from Anywhere But Hollywood.
To Hollywood, buy a fancy car.